Сайн байцгаана уу хүн үзэгчтэй. Өнөөдөр манай дефакто нэвтрүүлгийн зочноор Америкийн нэгдсэн улсын Харвардын Бизнесийн сургуулийн менежментийн профессор, Hirotaka их сургуулийн эмерит профессор, ноён Hirotaka Takeuchi оролцож байна.
ТАКЭУЧИ Hirotaka, Харвардын Бизнесийн сургуулийн менежментийн профессор. Профессор Такeuchi Hirotaka нь Токиогийн олон улсын христийн их сургуульд бакалавр, Америк нэгдсэн улсын Берклийн их сургуульд бизнесийн удирдлагын магистрийн болон докторийн зэрэгээ хамгаалсан. Тэрээр Харвардын Бизнесийн сургуулийн туслах профессор, Токиогийн Hitotsubashi их сургуульд дэд профессор, Токиогийн Hitotsubashi их сургуульд олон улсын байгууллагын стратегийн агсан түвшийн сургуулийн захирлаар ажиллаж байсан. Профессор Такeuchi нь үндэстэн дамсан корпорациудад менежмент, маркетинг, санхүү, бүртгэлийн зөвлөх үйлчилгээ үзүүлдэг бөгөөд бизнесийн сэтгүүлүүдэд 90 гаруй судалгааны нийтлэл хэвлүүлжээ.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Welcome to Mongolia.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Please tell us what brought you to Mongolia and tell us what have you been doing here.
Yes, the National University of Mongolia invited me to spend a few days to talk to its faculty as well as to its VIPs on two things. One is on the Microeconomics of Competitiveness, we call it MOC. And the National University of Mongolia has been a consortium member of MOC for the last 11 years. And professors from the university have come every year to this consortium organized by Professor Michael Porter. And so I've met professors here from the National University of Mongolia. And last year they said, would you like to come? So I accepted the invitation. And the other thing is I'm just finished writing a book, a sequel to the Knowledge Creating Company book, published by the same publisher, Oxford University Press, and the title of which is called The Wise Company. So they wanted me to do several sessions, one on MOC and the other on knowledge creation and practice.
Well, let's talk about both of them.
Okay.
First of all, about MOC,
Right.
Microeconomics of Competitiveness. Here in Mongolia, before the turning into the new century, we started to talk about competitiveness.
I see.
And we have been broadly using a book made by Professor Michael Porter,
Sure.
with whom you are working. You are part of his the section of the book about Japan.
Right.
And you have a long experience about competitiveness. And we start to talk, and then Michael Porter was once in Mongolia. at
Yes,
that
that's
time.
right.
And then he sent a group of young professionals
I see.
who made a report in competitiveness. The report was outlining for a few sectors of the economy where Mongolia can be competitive. What do you think? What do you think that we can be competitive in which sector?
I see. The fact is, when Michael Porter was here in 2008, he recommended a very strong appeal to enrich clusters here. And the clusters were primarily resource-based, but he urged the country to become more process-oriented industries and so forth. I think the fact is, I've seen the data for 2017, and not much has changed. So
Unfortunately. That's why we keep staying dependent on mining.
Right.
Dependent on
coal.
only exports, coal and copper, and only one importer, China. That's
Right,
it. So,
right. Yeah.
Yes, we keep staying
Sure.
dependent.
Right. So I see a great potential in tourism, for example, because of the nomad culture. I think there's an attraction from a world perspective for a sector like tourism, as well as in the agribusiness sector as well. But right now, we don't see much cluster formation in those two sectors.
Cluster formation, agree. And according to Michael Porter books, this kind of diamond-shaped
Right.
factors,
Right.
and a plus chances, plus the
Yes.
government's capacity to
Right.
take over the opportunities.
Right.
So it looks like all of them are still missing.
Well, the biggest part that's missing is, I think, the related and supporting industries. So in order for the diamond framework to really function, I think of the four factors, Mongolia is pretty strong in the input section, but the weakness in terms of ranking vis-a-vis other countries is in related and supporting industries. So there's really not a big infrastructure base in Mongolia. And I think the other problem is, you mentioned government, but government's role is to create a positive business environment. And I think that role is probably misconstrued here. The government seem to be making policies rather than trying to build the environment, which is positive for business.
Yeah, I do agree. Yeah, environment. And that environment, if they have been creating, are always changing.
I see. Right.
It's unpredictable. And on the average, we have 1.5-year government term in the country since 1990. As a result, the new one is rejecting the old one policy.
Sure.
Because it's just policy.
Right.
So they keep going every time, like very much zigzag type of approach.
Right.
Do you recall any similar country that is dependent on mining commodities and that is also kind of similar government like in Mongolia?
Yeah, I think, when you look back, Australia was very much dependent on resources. But over the years, tourism has become a very attractive sector, cluster for them. And so has, food manufacturing, beer. So there's kind of, a couple of cluster formation that has taken place in the last, 20, 30 years.
Australia, like Mongolia, far from mainstream tourism markets, right? Outbound tourism markets. And they have played an important role, the liberalization of transportation.
Yes.
Everybody could fly.
Right.
But here, we are very reluctant.
Right.
And we just almost by force couple airlines flying.
Sure.
Called sharing still, and we have a government-owned airlines.
Sure.
What is your take on that?
Yeah, I think if you were thinking of maybe creating a cluster in tourism, you clearly have to have the airlines have open doors, restaurants, important travel agencies, and you need 6 or 7 of these institutions working together. And I think the fact that there's probably the only way I could enter Mongolia directly is through the national airline.
Yes.
That's
or
very restrictive.
Those China and Russia who is code sharing with him. I mean, in a way, it's a part of a national line.
Right.
Other thing I have observed, I have gone through several times this book, and the first edition, the second edition already.
Thank you. Yeah.
And the book, and it says, the whole concept is cluster creation is kind of competitors getting together.
Yes.
He was bringing the case of the motorbiking case in Japan or in Italy,
Sure.
where the major three companies are in the same city,
Yes.
which suggests that there were very severe cost
Right.
competition.
Yes,
So
right.
they're even better to be close in one place so that
That's right.
they get the supply at the same cost, right?
Right.
In that sense,
Yeah.
this airline also,
Mm-hmm.
we need to have many airlines flying.
That's right.
And
That's
there is, I remember, open air policy which in the U.S. started and which just wipe it out, call all rules.
Right.
So,
Right. You're absolutely right. I think I was in charge of the Japan part of the book, and the 10 industries or so that we've selected, the rivalry in each of these sectors are intense. There are 10, 12 competitors fighting it out. And so the bottom line is, as you say, competition is good. And the more rivals you have, the more each one tries to better the other one. And so there's positive effect coming from rivalry.
And from also other side, the government is still in this country restricts or trying to restrict, control the price for food, for example.
I see.
Basic meat,
I see.
milk, etc. So what is your take on that, the government controlling the price, energy, etc.?
Yeah. Basically, in order to create prosperity, you need to have companies take the lead. So the whole theory is, the old model in a resource-strong country is for the government to be in charge, the main actor, and the role of the government is to distribute the wealth, the endowment. But I think in the new model, it's up to the companies to be the main actor, and the companies innovate and they create value. And the government's role is to support the business environment in which these companies operate. So I think they have more of an indirect role rather than a direct role.
And you said the companies are to take the leading role.
Yes.
And that brings us to our second subject called Wise Companies.
Sure.
What are those companies about?
Well, the book that we just finished writing is...
at Harvard.
I did the research while I was at Harvard.
Okay.
And it was done by a colleague of mine who is a prominent management scholar out of Japan. His name is Ikujiro Nonaka. So we wrote the first book together, The Knowledge Creating Company. And the second one, which will be published in September, is also with him. But the research funding came largely from the Harvard Business School.
Business School.
You're right in saying from Harvard. Right.
So that means this replicates not only Japan case, but overall, right? Every country can do it. Please tell us about the book.
We basically, in this book, are focused on continuous innovation. So what are companies that have continuously innovated over these years, and who are they, and what led them to enable them to do continuous innovation. The first book was on innovation, and we focused on tacit knowledge. But on this book, we are focusing on the word continuous. So for example, the first chapter we introduce Honda as a case example. And here's a company that started out by putting a motor on a bicycle, and then created motorcycles, very successful. And then they go into the auto industry, but now they're into business jet, right?
Yes.
So what enables a company like Honda to go from motorcycles all the way to business jet. And it's taken them 29 years to really come out with a successful business jet. So it requires patience. And only 4 or 5 people in the company knew that this project was going on. So, it's kind of a very neat story. The company, decided not to go into auto racing.
Formula One?
Yeah, Formula One, right? F1. They stopped doing that for twice because, it was very expensive. But for this project, they also, for 29 years, only 4 or 5 people knowing it, they kept funding it. So
the research.
Yeah, so it's very unlike the business model in Silicon Valley, where one guy makes it rich, and then he sells or she sells,
at the
right?
End, yes,
right. But this is kind of continuing.
Does Honda created? Did Honda created particular principally new engine?
Yes. Totally new concept. They put the engine on the wing of the aircraft.
Not under.
Not under. And this was considered a no-no. People said that's a crazy idea. But the main engineer, Mr. Fujino, who's a young guy, said, this is more efficient. Why not, right? And he kept on experimenting, and sure enough, it is now more efficient. It's a fuel efficient. So it's a combination in terms of cars. The metaphor is it's a combination of Civic and NS, the car that they have, which is the sports car that they have.
Yes.
Yeah. So, it's jazzy.
Yes.
It's, exciting. It's sexy.
It looks good. Have you been flying on that?
I have been in the
on the board.
on the aircraft, but I have not flown it.
I see.
So
a different feeling?
It's very wide, very open, because they put the engine on the top, there's plenty of space. They can put, tons of cargo in there, and it goes, in a high level very quickly. The speed is 20% faster than any of the other business. So no wonder in 1 year it became the best-selling small jet.
Small jet. How many seats?
Probably about 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
Yeah.
And how much does it cost in Japan?
About $4 to $5 million US dollars. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Affordable if you
affordable. And of course,
businesses.
The maintenance is the main cost. But here the maintenance cost is extremely low. So long run, it's a good buy. Yeah. The other company, I think you're familiar with the Japan Airlines story.
Yeah, very much.
Right?
Yes.
Right. And you've interviewed
Kazuo Inamori,
right? And again, here's a company that started out selling ceramic.
Yes.
But then he goes to KDDI Telecom. And now at the very end, he's resurrecting Japan Airlines. He was 79 years old when he took over as chairman, and he quit when he was 82, right?
Within 2.5 years, he turned loss-run company into profit-run company.
Right.
Yeah, I just met after his
You did,
success.
right? Yeah.
That was impressive.
Very impressive.
And as much as his other books and he wrote,
right,
and etc.
Right.
Takeuchi-san, you have been about marketing, company global strategy for marketing, and you have been also doing study in Japan, Japanese new products, innovations, also Japanese companies' competitiveness.
Sure.
And also this the knowledge creation company you said.
Sure.
How a country like Mongolia, today developing country, just about 4,000 per capita income, unlike Japan maybe 60,000, and US about the same level.
Yeah.
And having big vast land, a lot of minerals. Where to put the priority in our investment in human, in techniques, or in the market? What do you think?
I think, Mongolia's best chances is investing in humans. And I think that's one of the strengths of Japanese companies when you think about it. Because, when, I did the new product development model, and we call it Scrum. So rather than passing the baton from one team to the other, the Japanese, we use a rugby metaphor, Scrum, right? And it's...
but keeping the ball not touched by others, right?
Right. As a team, right, moving up and down the field. And so the power of humans, especially built around a team. And I think that has been a key strength because Japanese companies were able to convert individual knowledge into corporate knowledge through small groups, through teams. And so I think the part that the Japanese have been very strong is what we call tacit knowledge. Right? It's knowledge that you cannot put in the computer. It comes from experience. It comes with six senses. It comes through intuition. It comes from beliefs. And I think, there's quite a commonality among the values that, our two cultures share. And I think respect for people, respect for teams. So this, I think, formula would work. The Scrum thing has now become the agile movement, and it is now common in software. So any Silicon Valley company uses Scrum, uses agile, and that I think is where the secret sauce is, actually.
With the current newcomers to the businesses like artificial intelligence, blockchain.
Sure.
Under that, this fintech, all this.
Right.
How all those match with what you are saying?
I think there's got to be a fusion of digital with analog. And I think a lot of the strength of the United States and some of the Western companies are on the digital side, right? So, we leave it up to them to develop AI further. So AlphaGo is, beats the Go master.
Very nice answer.
Yeah.
Fusion of analog and digital.
Yeah. So, this is not going to stop. And I think right now what we're looking at is how can we combine this with analog that we have. And humans are much more attuned to imagination, right? They're much more attuned to intuition. So it's this part that I think Mongolia should focus on. Because we do have the AIs, the ARs, name it, IoTs coming from the West. But we can supplement that, fuse it with the analog and the nomad culture and the farming culture of Japan. We have tons of knowledge in the tacit field. So I think that's the fusion lies the key, I think.
Imagination and intuition that the artificial intelligence cannot do. Only a person.
Right.
Well, I cannot but ask a few questions about your personal productivity. You have been in 1976 and 1982 Harvard Business Assistant Professor.
Yeah.
If you consider from that time you have been so active, what is the secret? How come that you are working so hard and so long and yet having a great gut, doing you looks like you like what you do,
I look at I think two things. One, I have to be very grateful to my father, who told me my mission in life is to be the bridge between Japan and the United States. So he put me through an international school, and that's why I speak English, pretty good. And so he says, your mission in life is to be the bridge.
And another Japanese,
Yeah.
only 150 years ago,
Yeah.
called Iguchi Fukuzawa.
Fukuzawa-san, right?
Fukuzawa-san had the same mission.
Right?
He was the bridge of Japan and the West.
Yes. Yes.
And at times he was
Yeah.
hated, almost beat.
Yeah.
His colleague was killed, by the way,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
time.
that's right.
So now
Yeah.
you're lucky you are not beaten.
Right.
The bridge was made, but you made stronger.
Yeah.
Why your father said that?
No, I think he had two inferiority complexes.
Okay.
One, he didn't speak English.
Okay.
And two, he didn't have a graduate degree. So he says, my children are going to speak English and, will have a graduate degree.
How many siblings you have?
I've got an older brother and an older sister. And so, I'm grateful to him. And, every decision point I've made, I'd say, should I go this way or that way? Then, oh yeah, my mission. It's better to go this way, right? So
Lucky you are.
Yeah,
you
I'm
had
very
a
lucky.
mission
I'm very
from
lucky.
when very
young.
much childhood.
yeah, so so I'm very grateful to that. And the second thing that I'm very grateful to is I've met extremely productive people, both in Japan and the United States. When I was appointed to an office at the Harvard Business School, first year in 1976, my office was right next to Michael Porter's office.
Okay.
I was in the marketing area, and he was in the strategy area. And, this was by chance. But this is what I think he would call strategic positioning.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. With Michael Porter.
Yeah.
Next door.
Next door. So, we got to know each other very well. So I was there 7 years, and we used to travel together, do, conferences together. So in the United States, it was Michael Porter's. And he's the one in 2010 told me, hey, Hiro, you're too young to retire. Come back. Right? So I was teaching MOC, the Microeconomics of Competitiveness course with him. So in the States is, Mike. And in Japan, when I was an exchange, when I was an MBA student at UC Berkeley, my first year I met Jiro Nonaka. And he's the co-author of the two books. He is 11 years older than me.
Wow.
But, he, to me, is,
Wow.
a real guru. So being able to work with these two outstanding scholars, and, both of them are real academicians.
Michael Porter looks very fit. What is that?
He is.
Why is that?
Well, he was very much an athlete when he was young. Yeah, so he played football in high school. He was almost became a national champion in golf. Right. So I think physically,
Porter became almost this master.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as well as you, how often you play golf?
I
You
love
two,
to play.
two guys together.
Not
Every Sunday.
much. Not much. But I played a couple of times with him, and his ball is like a pro golfer's ball. It goes boom, and mine goes. So no comparison whatsoever.
Do you run every morning, or how you do this physical?
I think I weigh myself every day. So I have 2 kilos, and I try to kind of make sure that I'm within that. And I think that to me has been a secret. So I can wear the suits I bought 20 years ago. And still
Doesn't look like 20 years ago. Anyway,
yeah.
Because this time,
Sure.
I would like to. I'm very happy first to meet you and to
same
have
here.
a chance of talking to you earlier, and glad that you are in Mongolia. And I think our academicians, faculties, well, a lot of things to learn.
Thank you.
And be please also a bridge between
Yes.
U.S. and Mongolia.
Oh, I would love that.
Particularly your school and with our national
Right.
university.
That's true. One of the reasons I'm back here is because one of my students from the Hitotsubashi days is here in Mongolia, and he's the one who started the cashmere business for Uniqlo.
I see.
Yeah, so he's here, and so
He's a Mongolian student.
He's a Mongolian student.
What's his name?
Bat. Yeah.
Okay.
This is his last name. I forgot. Yes.
Uniqlo. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Good.
Right.
Well, because you see how much we are related and connected with Japan and then U.S. Harvard and
Sure. Yeah.
it's that's a beautiful part of life, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Sir,
Certainly is. Yeah.
thank you very much.
Yeah, I greatly
Thank you.
appreciate seeing you.
Thank you.
And I learned so much about Japanese businessmen from you.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. За, хүндэтгэгчтэй өнөөдөр манай дефакто нэвтрүүлгийн зочноор энэ Харвардын их алдартай профессор ноён Такeuchi Hirotaka оролцлоо. Баярлалаа.